I never imagined my own parents would one day look me in the eye and make it clear that my children were not welcome in their home. But the moment my mother's voice turned light and careful on the phone, I felt it. That quiet shift that tells you something ugly is coming. I was standing in my kitchen, one hand resting on the counter, staring out the window at my kids playing in the yard, completely unaware that a line was about to be drawn that would change our family forever. Before I tell you how that moment unraveled everything I thought I knew about loyalty and love, take a second to support the space. Follow the channel and drop a comment about where you're listening from. Stories like this reach farther when people show up for them. Thanksgiving was still weeks away when she called, but her tone carried none of the warmth it used to. "Sweetheart," she said, almost cheerful, "we need to talk about Thanksgiving this year." For just a second, my chest softened. No matter how strained things had been between us over the years, holidays always pulled me back. My kids, Lily and Noah, adore their grandparents. They talked about Grandma's pumpkin pie and Grandpa's terrible jokes all year long. I wanted that for them. I always had. "Of course," I said. "What's the plan?" There was a pause. Not long, but long enough for my stomach to tighten. "Well," she continued, clearing her throat, "this year we're doing something a little different. A smaller dinner. Just adults. Something more intimate." I frowned, leaning against the counter. "So no kids at all?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Well, not exactly." The knot in my stomach twisted hard. "What do you mean?" She sighed, as if I were putting her in an uncomfortable position. "Rachel, we love your kids. You know that. But they're a bit energetic. And honestly, we just feel it would be better if you left them with a sitter this year." My grip tightened on the counter. "Just my kids?" I asked carefully. "What about Ethan's?" "Ethan. My older brother. The golden child. The one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, no matter how often he disappointed them." She hesitated, and in that hesitation, I already had my answer. "Well, Ethan and Marissa are coming with their boys," she admitted. "But you know how well-behaved they are. They're quieter, more refined. It's just easier to have them at the table." It felt like being slapped. "They're children," I said, my voice tight. "Lily is 7. Noah's 4. Of course they have energy. They're kind, they're loving, and they adore you." "We're just trying to have a peaceful evening," she replied, irritation creeping in now that I wasn't falling in line. "It's not personal. Not personal." I swallowed hard, every old memory rushing forward at once. The school plays they never attended for Lily but never missed for Ethan's boys. The birthday cards with gift cards tucked inside for his kids, while mine got a single toy from the bargain aisle. The way my children were always treated like background noise, while his were treated like center stage. "You're really telling me this?" I whispered. "You're saying my kids aren't welcome, but his are." "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said. "It's just one dinner. You and Caleb are still invited, of course." I almost laughed. They wanted me there. Just not the two people I loved most in the world. "No," I said quietly. "If my kids aren't welcome, neither am I." Silence stretched between us. Then she exhaled sharply. "Suit yourself." The line went dead. I stood there staring at my phone, my breath uneven. From the living room came the sound of laughter. Lily and Noah were building a pillow fort, giggling like nothing in the world could touch them. They had no idea that the grandparents they adored had just dismissed them like inconveniences. Something inside me shifted. I walked into the living room and forced a smile. "Movie night?" I asked. Noah's eyes lit up instantly. "Can we watch the one with the talking dog?" "Absolutely," I said, scooping him into my arms and kissing his curls. But even as we curled up on the couch, the anger didn't fade. I had spent my entire life trying to earn my parents' approval, trying to be easy, trying not to rock the boat, and still it was never enough. I was done. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Mom said you're being difficult about Thanksgiving. Why do you always make everything so dramatic?" I stared at the screen, jaw tight. Oh, so she'd already spun her version. I typed back. "She told me my kids weren't welcome, but yours are. That's not dramatic. That's deliberate." The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. A full minute passed before his reply came. "She just wants a calm dinner, Rachel. You know how your kids can be a lot. A lot. Like a burden. Like something to tolerate. "Enjoy your perfect Thanksgiving," I typed. "I won't be there." I turned off my phone before he could respond. And that's when I made a decision that would change everything. 4 years, I had been the reliable one. The fixer. The helper. When my parents needed groceries, they called me. When their Wi-Fi broke, I drove over. When they needed help planning family events, I handled it. Ethan showed up late, did the bare minimum, and still got all the praise. But if my kids weren't part of their family, then they weren't going to benefit from me anymore. A week before Thanksgiving, my mother called again. I almost ignored it. Almost. "I just wanted to check in," she said carefully. "I know you were upset, but I really hope you'll reconsider. We'd love to have you and Caleb there." "And my kids?" I asked. She sighed like I was exhausting her. "Rachel, why are you being so stubborn? It's one night. You know how much Ethan's boys mean to us." There it was, plain and unmistakable. "You've made your position clear," I said. "I won't bother you again. Don't be like this." I ended the call. And this time I didn't cry. I started small. When my dad called asking for help setting up his new TV, I let it go to voicemail. When my mom texted asking me to pick up a prescription, I left it unread. I had been at their beck and call for years. Not anymore. By Thanksgiving morning, I had missed 12 calls and ignored half a dozen messages. Then a text from Ethan came through. "Mom and Dad are really upset you're ignoring them. Are you really going to let it go this far?" "It already went too far when they told me my kids weren't welcome," I replied. This time, he didn't answer. I put my phone on silent and turned back to my real family. Lily and Noah were at the table, covered in flour, laughing as Caleb helped them mix pancake batter. It was messy, loud, joyful, and for the first time in years, I felt peace. But deep down, I knew something else too. My parents weren't done, and their next move would show me exactly how far they were willing to go when they lost control. Thanksgiving morning felt strangely peaceful. No rushing to dress the kids in uncomfortable clothes. No anxiety about being late. No bracing myself for passive-aggressive comments, disguised as compliments. Our house smelled like pancakes and coffee, and the only sounds were laughter and the sizzle of butter in the pan. Lily stood on a chair, carefully pouring chocolate chips into the bowl while Noah stirred far too aggressively, sending flour into the air. Caleb flipped pancakes with exaggerated flair, making them laugh every time one landed crooked. This was our Thanksgiving. Then my phone rang. I glanced at the screen. "Mom." I let it ring. It rang again. Caleb looked at me. "Want me to turn it off?" I hesitated, then shook my head. "If it's an emergency, I should at least hear it." I answered, keeping my voice flat. "What is it?" "Oh, now you pick up," she said sharply. "I suppose you're just sitting at home feeling sorry for yourself while we're all here trying to enjoy the day." I closed my eyes. "If you called to gloat, I don't have time." "That's not why I called," she snapped. "I need to ask you something." I stepped into the hallway, lowering my voice. "What now?" "Did you cancel the credit card?" The house seemed to go silent around me. "What are you talking about?" I asked slowly. "Your father's card," she said impatiently. "The one we use for groceries and gas. It was declined this morning." The truth hit me like ice water. That card wasn't theirs. It was mine. Years earlier, when my dad had surgery and money was tight, I had added my parents as authorized users on my credit account. Temporarily, just to help them through a rough patch. I had meant to remove them once things stabilized, but life got busy and I forgot. They hadn't. "You mean my credit card?" I said. There was a pause. Then she scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a card. You make good money. We assumed." "You assumed you could keep using my money," I said, my voice shaking now. "Even after telling me my kids weren't welcome in your home?" She sighed theatrically. "We raised you. The least you could do is support us now." I felt something inside me harden. "You're right about one thing," I said quietly. "I did cancel the card. Rachel. And since we're being honest," I continued, "you won't see another cent from me. No groceries. No gas. No help. Ever." Her breath caught. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said. "But not today." I hung up. I stood there for a moment, phone pressed against my palm, then walked back into the kitchen where Caleb looked at me with concern. "Everything okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Just taking out the trash." The rest of the day passed in laughter and warmth. Movies, board games, cookies baked and burned and laughed over. No tension, no walking on eggshells. But something in my gut told me this wasn't over. I was right. 3 days later, Ethan called. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he snapped the moment I answered. "Mom's in tears. You cut them off completely. Did she mention they'd been using my credit card for years without telling me?" I asked calmly. A pause. "She said you were helping them. They ran up thousands of dollars," I said, "while treating my kids like second-class citizens." He exhaled sharply. "Look, I get that you're mad, but this is extreme." "Extreme was excluding my children," I shot back. "They just wanted peace," he said. "Mom said your kids can be a bit wild." I laughed bitterly. "So they can use my money, but my kids aren't good enough for their table?" He didn't answer. After a moment, his voice changed. Calculating. "Maybe we can work something out. What if you keep helping them, but with limits? Smaller transfers." I felt my jaw tighten. "You want me to fund their lifestyle after they showed me exactly where my kids rank?" "They didn't mean it like that." "They said it," I replied. "Out loud." Silence. "Fine," he said stiffly. "Don't expect them to forgive you." "I'll survive," I said and hung up. Weeks passed. No calls. No texts. I knew the silence was strategic. They were waiting for me to cave. I didn't. Then a week before Christmas, a letter arrived. Caleb brought it in, frowning. "It's from your parents." I opened it, my stomach dropping as I read. A formal demand. They were billing me. For raising me. Food. Clothes. School supplies. Medical expenses. Itemized like an invoice. Total, $78,542. I laughed out loud. "They're desperate," Caleb said, reading over my shoulder. "This isn't about money," I said. "It's about control." The next day, I drove to their house with the letter in hand. My mom opened the door, her face hardening. "So now you show up." I held up the letter. "You really thought this would work?" "It's fair," she said coldly. "Fair." I laughed. "You expect free money from me while charging me for my childhood." My dad stepped forward. "We sacrificed a lot for you." "You abandoned me," I replied. "And my kids. If you won't pay," my mother said, "we'll involve lawyers." I met her gaze. "Go ahead." She blinked. "What?" "Explain to a judge why you're suing your daughter for being born," I said. "See how that goes." Silence. I tore the letter in half. "I'm done being your ATM," I said, turning away. "Merry Christmas," I added over my shoulder. That night, we had the best Christmas I could remember. Laughter. Cocoa. No conditions. No guilt. But New Year's Eve proved they still weren't finished. When they showed up at my door with threats disguised as concern, talking about lawyers and grandparents' rights, I laughed in their faces. I had evidence. Messages. Records. Years of proof. And when I told them I would expose everything if they pushed me, they finally backed down. They disappeared after that. No calls. No letters. No demands. And for the first time in my life, it felt like freedom. The silence that followed felt unnatural at first, like the calm after a storm when you're still bracing for another strike. Days passed. Then weeks. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. My parents vanished from my life so completely it was almost eerie. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for the next manipulation. I focused on my kids, on rebuilding routines that didn't revolve around appeasing people who treated love like a transaction. Lily stopped asking why Grandma hadn't called. Noah stopped wondering when we'd visit Grandpa's house again. Children adapt faster than adults when the environment becomes safer. Caleb noticed it too. "They're lighter," he said one evening as we watched the kids color at the table. "They don't seem on edge anymore." Neither did I. But cutting people off doesn't erase the damage they've already done. It just gives you space to see it clearly. It started with small realizations. How often I had apologized for things that weren't wrong. How instinctively I minimized my needs. How deeply the fear of being difficult had been programmed into me. And then the financial aftermath hit. I sat down with a credit counselor in January, mostly out of curiosity. I wanted to understand exactly how much damage had been done. When she pulled my full report, my stomach dropped. Late payments I didn't recognize. Charges from places I'd never been. Patterns that made no sense until they did. "They've been using this account heavily," she said gently. "For years. Years. Groceries, gas, online shopping, subscriptions, even vacations." I felt sick. That money could have gone to my kids' college funds, emergency savings, stability. Instead, it had funded a lifestyle for people who told my children they weren't welcome. I closed the account that day. Then I did something I'd never done before. I documented everything. Every text, every voicemail, every demand, every threat. I organized it neatly, methodically. Not because I planned to use it, but because I finally understood the power of clarity. And clarity changed everything. In February, I ran into a family friend at the grocery store. Someone who'd known my parents for decades. "I heard things are tense," she said cautiously. "Tense is one word," I replied. She hesitated, then leaned in. "They've been telling people you cut them off financially, that you're unstable, that you're keeping the kids from them out of spite." I smiled slowly. Of course they were. For years, they controlled the narrative, painted themselves as generous, me as ungrateful. Not anymore. "I have receipts," I said simply. Her eyes widened. And just like that, the story began to change. Word travels fast in small circles, faster when the truth is organized. By spring, the messages started again, but this time they weren't demands. They were apologies. Thin ones, careful ones, laced with expectation. "Mom, we've been reflecting. Families go through hard times. Dad, we miss the kids. Surely we can talk like adults." I didn't respond. Silence had become my boundary. Then came the guilt. A voicemail from my mother, voice trembling. "Your father's health hasn't been great. Stress is hard on him." I deleted it. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally understood manipulation disguised as concern. You don't get to hurt people and then demand access to their empathy. One afternoon in early April, Ethan showed up at my door. Unannounced. I opened it and felt nothing. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "Make it quick." He rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom and Dad aren't doing well." "They seemed fine when they were using my money," I replied calmly. "That's not fair," he said. "It's accurate." He sighed. "They're lonely. They didn't think you'd actually walk away." I studied him for a moment. "Neither did you." That landed. "You know," I continued, "you could have stood up for my kids. Even once." His eyes dropped. "I didn't want to get involved," he muttered. "Then don't get involved now," I said. "I'm not reopening doors so you can feel better about staying quiet." He left without arguing. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Because the hardest part wasn't losing my parents. It was accepting that I'd never really had them the way I needed. Summer came quietly. We took trips we'd always postponed. Camped. Swam. Laughed. Built memories that didn't include tension or comparison. Lily started dancing again, this time without looking into the crowd for approval that never came. Noah learned to ride a bike. Caleb cheered louder than anyone. And me. I stopped apologizing. Then, in August, something unexpected happened. A certified letter arrived. My hands didn't shake when I opened it. Inside was a notice. Not a threat this time. An apology. Formal. Signed. Carefully worded. They acknowledged mistakes. Misunderstandings. Regret. No mention of favoritism. No accountability. Just an invitation to start fresh. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Not as forgiveness. As closure. Because forgiveness doesn't mean access. And starting fresh doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. By the time fall rolled around again, the air felt lighter. My house felt grounded. My children felt secure. And I knew something with certainty for the first time in my life. I wasn't breaking my family apart. I was protecting the part of it that mattered. Fall returned quietly, without drama or announcements. The kind of season that settles in rather than arrives. Leaves turned. Air cooled. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel that familiar knot of dread tightening in my chest as the holidays approached. I noticed the change in small ways first. I no longer flinched when my phone buzzed. I no longer rehearsed conversations in my head before speaking. I no longer wondered if I was being too much. The space they left behind wasn't empty. It was peaceful. One afternoon, while cleaning out a drawer, I found the apology letter again. The one I'd folded neatly and put away months earlier. I reread it slowly this time, not with anger, not with hope, but with distance. It was carefully written, every sentence measured, every word chosen to soften responsibility without ever owning it. No mention of Lily, no mention of Noah, no mention of the damage done. Just regret for the outcome, not the actions. That told me everything. I slid the letter back into the drawer and closed it. Some doors don't need to be slammed. They just need to stay shut. A week later, I ran into my mother at the grocery store. It was inevitable in a town this size. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, emotionally. Her posture was stiff, her eyes darting the moment she recognized me. For a split second, I saw relief cross her face. Then fear. "Rachel," she said quietly. "Hi," I replied. Nothing more. We stood there between the cereal aisle and the freezer section, surrounded by ordinary life, and suddenly there was nothing left to say. No confrontation, no apologies, no tears, just truth hanging in the air. "How are the kids?" she asked finally. "They're good," I said. "Happy." She nodded, lips pressed together. "That's good." I waited. Nothing else came. And in that moment, I understood something important. She wasn't asking because she missed them. She was asking because she missed access. I wished her well and walked away. My hands didn't shake. By Thanksgiving, a full year had passed. That morning, our house was warm and loud, filled with the smell of roasted vegetables and cinnamon rolls. Lily helped set the table, carefully arranging napkins like she'd seen in a magazine. Noah insisted on making place cards for everyone, even the dog. Caleb watched me from across the kitchen, smiling softly. "You okay?" I nodded. "I am." And I meant it. We sat down together, no tension, no comparison, no invisible hierarchy determining who deserved love more. Just us. After dinner, Lily curled up beside me and asked, "Mom." "Yeah, sweetheart. Why don't we go to Grandma's anymore?" I took a breath, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to answer honestly. "Because sometimes," I said gently, "people forget how to treat others kindly. And it's my job to keep you safe." She thought about that, then nodded. "I like it here better." "Me too." Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I stood on the porch wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars. Caleb joined me, handing me a mug of tea. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. "I know," I replied. That was new. For most of my life, I'd measured myself against other people's approval, their comfort, their expectations. But somewhere along the way, I'd learned a harder, more important truth. Love that comes with conditions isn't love. Family that ranks children isn't family. And peace is worth more than proximity. I didn't lose my parents. I lost the illusion that they would ever change. And in exchange, I gained something better. Clarity. Freedom. A home where my children never question whether they belong. If this story felt familiar, if you've ever been asked to shrink, to compromise your children's worth, or to earn love that should have been freely given, know this. Walking away isn't weakness. It's protection. And if this story resonated with you, take a moment to support the channel, subscribe, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Stories like this don't just get told. They help people realize they're not alone.